gentlemen, welcome to America's Auto Enthusiast Program. This is Auto World. And now, here's your host, Bob Long.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me here for another hour of Auto World. To sound a little bit different, that's because my digital equipment here is not working properly, so we're going old school, so to speak. But after the first of the year, we're going to have this straightened out, and I'll be back in crystal clear digital quality. But that's what it takes to do a show. You got to have really good equipment, and there's a lot of expenses that come into play when you're doing national radio, and we thank all of our great sponsors, including McCollisters, and take up Dan on his offer, that calendar, and the other gift as well. And we got to thank, of course, the people at J.C. Whitney and take them up on their offer as well. And, of course, Amsoil, and this is the hour that we dedicate to the gentleman who is a certified lubrication specialist with more than 25 years. That's a quarter century worth of experience. And he joins us right now on the line. Dan Watson, welcome back to Auto World.
Good to be back, Bob. I can feel your pain when it comes to all this electronic equipment these days. It's like everything else. It just marches forward and takes a pretty good price tag with it as it keeps marching.
Absolutely. And, you know, it seems like once you're all set and everything is in good working order, some of these pieces just decide, well, it's time for me to check out of this world and go to the great electronic graveyard in the sky.
Well, you know, the thing about all this electronic equipment now is there was a time, maybe, remember, now this is going to date us, but when you could go down to maybe Radio Shack or something, and you could bring a bag full of some tubes you wanted to test from your TV or your radio set, and that tube's weak, that one's not good, I have to get another one of those, right, and so forth. Now, it's solid-state electronics. It works when it works, and when it doesn't, you replace it. There's nothing to fix, you know?
Yeah, I used to love Radio Shack, and, you know, I know they have gone through some bankruptcies and have closed, I believe, 90-some-odd% of the stores. Do you know of any around where you and I live? Are there any Radio Shacks in this neck of the woods?
No, the last one I knew close to me closed a few years back. But, see, Radio Shack was a tinkerer's. It was an electronics tinkering type store. And they had all the gizmos that you could build stuff with and tinker. And today everything is so high-tech and solid state that the only way things are fixed is they have these little circuit boards that you slide in and slide out for your computer. You can buy those kind of things and do some of that yourself, and slide them in and plug them in and out. But you might as well take your soldering iron and your other gizmos and, you know, make fancy paperweights out of them, because you can't touch any of that stuff.
It is so true, and we can bring that into automobiles as well, new vehicles. Boy, when you look at the computing power that's aboard some of these new vehicles, Dan, it's staggering. I remember more than 10 years ago, Mercedes was telling me that there's more computers in their SL convertible. This is 10, 15 years ago than, you know, what we landed on with the Apollo landing on the moon. There's
no absolutely. Computing. Yeah. You know, the thing is, everything goes quickly along, and we've talked about this on the show before. This is true with lubrication. I mean, we hope we get a little smarter on things as we go along, experience. I mean, you know, Drake put down his first well in the late 1800s, 1880, sometime in that frame, and that's the first time we were bringing petroleum up out of the ground and deciding to figure out some way to refine it or do something with it. We're only talking about, you know, 120 years ago, 140 years ago. And so this is a short period of time that we've been dealing with automobiles. You know, the great automobile century just ended. Now, from 1900 to 1999, we will have to say, probably historians will call that the century of the automobile. It changed everything. Just imagine how cities were before the automobile and the freeways and expressways that were built in the 50s when they started. New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago. Imagine those cities with no expressways and hardly any cars, and just using the streetcars and the elevated trains and, that kind of transportation. It's even hard to envision such a thing, but that's what the automobile did to the urban centers of the United States, was to radically change how they're built. They're all built around the model that the primary method of transportation will be the automobile.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're still streaking along with this thing, and we're making space-age cars. That's the best way to call it. You're right. The computer electronics in it is mind-blowing. The engine qualities and the computerized manufacturing systems that build those engines are building tolerances that we never thought were possible in the past. And our guys, our metallurgists that are so much better at making the high-tech alloys for these things. Germans use all kinds of amazing things. They use a system where they literally have a hardening process on the cylinder walls that can make metal on the cylinder walls of an engine where it's as good as if you put in an incredibly expensive pressed-in liner into the system.
Wow.
And they can do it with this freezing and temperature radical method that they use. So these guys, they amaze you. The chemist, they make things which you just, these days you take your hat off and say, I think maybe you're a magician. It truly is true. There are magicians, because how can you bring those things on the input and get that on the output and just smile and say, we do it all the time? It's like, how do you do that? How can you be that good at what you do? So talented human beings, they make great improvements for our lives, our cars. Everybody says, wouldn't it be wonderful to go back to the old days, right? You love Corvettes. You get in a 2017 Corvette,
mm-hmm.
and you really drive that thing, and then you think to yourself a minute, boy, I wish I just had that 1957 Corvette. Yeah, it'd be fun to play with, and it is got a nostalgic value to it. But as far as the quality of the things that are put into it, it's night and day. Just things like steering. You imagine today we got steering, which is steer-by-wire. In other words, it doesn't even have the mechanical devices that we used to have. The steering wheel is just sending electrical signals to tell the electric motor to turn and position the front wheels and so forth. And this is stuff, you watch that little commercial where they have that the car parallel parks itself?
Yes.
How many kids do you think in 1960 would like to have that for the old driving test?
I know.
Had to parallel park as part of the driving test.
Exactly, and a lot of people failed because
yes, they did.
Today, there's a lot of people.
That was the worst thing about the whole test, was to do the parallel parking test. So it is a good and steady progress. And we'll tonight try to entertain some questions with people about synthetics, because this is something they need to understand. It's good to know about this stuff. It's good for their cars.
Absolutely. More with Dan Watson around the bend. BalloonPage.com is the website. I'm Bob Long. This is Auto World.
Don't be confused. The way is clear.
Hi, Jay Leno, and you're listening to Auto World with Bob Long.
Watch out, man, how you drive that Cadillac there.
We've got open lines here on Auto World, 855-660-4261. Dan Watson is with us. We've got the Auto World hood open. We're talking about lubrication. We're talking about Amsoil and anything in that realm in between. once again, Dan is the CEO of a great website, thelubepage.com, and he has a tremendous amount of YouTube videos up there with plans to do more. But I've had a number of listeners write me notes about your videos, so that's a great little feedback from Auto World listeners if they're looking at those YouTubes.
Well, I am delighted to hear that, and I know that they're going to be on me saying, got to make some newer ones, Dan. They're getting a little bit old, so the information is all still as good as it ever was. But, yeah, there's some new stuff. I need to make a good video and talk about changes in diesel oils and some additional things about European oils and even in some changes in two-cycle oils. So, I need to get on that, and I'm delinquent. So after these holidays in January, I'm going to have to, as they say, hit the bricks. I'm going to have to get something done. One of the things I had some questions, the last few days, just in talking with some of my associates and other people, that I think it's always worthwhile to tell people that it's unfortunate, but in our marketplace, you always have to do your due diligence, okay? You have to look out for yourself, because and a lot of times it just doesn't happen if you don't do it. I remember a friend of mine going through some serious medical issues. He said that they come at you with an awful lot of stuff, and he's the one that's sick, and thank goodness his wife is his advocate, and she begins to sort through and ask the hard questions, and of course he's better now, but someone has always got to be there to sort out the information and determine what's best for you, and that's the same thing with oil. Oil business is no different than any other. There's going to be shysters that come out, and they try to make money off of substandard products and get away with it. And you'd say, well, how could they do that? And one of the misconceptions that people have is that there's some type of government inspector at every oil manufacturing plant making sure that they're doing it right. And that's not true. They're sort of self-regulated. There are the regulations and the specifications that you have to meet on these things, and those are supported by the government, and they're produced by the independent agencies like the American Petroleum Institute and the Society of Automotive Engineers set standards. But they usually don't find companies not adhering to these principles until one of the consumer protection agencies in a given state pulls some of this oil off the shelf and goes and tests it in their own lab or in an independent lab to determine its quality and what is there. And it's sad to report that there have been several instances over the past few years of really just garbage. Substandard, shouldn't have been there, pretty labels, nothing in the bottle agrees with what's on the label. That's the kind of stuff you can run into. So how do you guard yourself against it? Well, today on the Internet, there's a lot of information. So you can search out a company if you've never heard of them and get an idea. And if they'll produce good technical information on their website and give examples of, independent lab testing from a reputable lab, Amsoil produces test material, and all of their testing that they stand upon and they publish is done for them by Southwest Research Labs down outside of San Antonio. And this is the same group that does certification testing for NASA, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, the Coast Guard. You kind of get my drift. This is an organization which they wouldn't give Amsoil the time of day if Amsoil was asking them to do something other than report the actual results they get from the testing that they perform. So when you can get that type of certification, that's a company that's willing to put its product where its mouth is. It's going to back it up. But when you find some type of oil being produced and there's no technical information available, there's no testing, there's no certification that you can find, there's no independent certifications, you need for your self-protective antenna to go up and say, not in my car. You can experiment with somebody else's car. I don't know what you're doing. I never heard of you before, and I'm not going to use that. Now, who am I talking about? I'm certainly not talking about Valvoline and Castrol and Mobil and Texaco and Chevron, those guys. Of course they're going to make a product to the standard they claim they're making it. They have good quality control. But there are tens, if not hundreds, of startup oil companies around the country that I can tell you, I've been doing this a long time, and I've never heard of a bunch of them that I run into, and I go, where'd these guys come from? Who are they, right? And they may be good, but if they are, they're going to produce enough information that they can prove to you that they're good, and you just don't want to be the guinea pig that got the bad stuff, and you're the one that has the equipment failure. And then when you turn to this company, you find out that they're going out of business, because that's what these types of companies will do. They'll sell a bunch of product, make a bunch of money, and then they will declare bankruptcy and go out of business so that they can't be sued, because they've put this garbage out in the marketplace. So I try to give this warning off and on the radio, whether it's my local radio or whether it's on a program like yours, Bob, because it's just important that the consumer is aware, that the consumer has knowledge that they always have to have their guard up. I wish it was not that way. I would like to have a society built on principle and where people tell you the truth and what they mean to be the truth, and I just can't report to anybody that that's the case. It is, at least in this industry. There are some fly-by-nights, and you got to guard yourself against them, okay, and get the best products for your vehicle. But in no way am I saying that would be the case with most of these recognizable companies, because Valvoline's been making over 100 years. Of course they got a reputation to keep up. Yeah. They're going to guard that. They're not going to produce junk and destroy their reputation. But when you hear of Joe Smuckatelli's Gator oil or something, right, you got to ask yourself, what in the world is this? Where'd this come from, right? And be leery. Just don't fall for it until you got good proof that it's something. And then most of these guys that produce this junk, they'll be selling it for half the price of everybody else's oil, and there'll be people gullible enough to think that you can get a good quality product for half the price that everybody else is selling it for, and that's just not true. It's not true. There's not a lot of margin in oil. People think everybody's getting rich, it's a big margin thing, but lubricating oils are not high in margin for profit. So you can't sell something for half the price of something else. There's not that much margin in the oil. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, bad sort of topic to have to talk about, but once in a while it has to be talked about.
Yeah, it does. And it makes a lot of people feel better, because it's more of an even playing field, because it's a complicated world here in 2017, and there are so many different things that you have to keep straight. Got an email question here. It's Russ joining us in Texas, listening on KEYS. And Russ has got a Lincoln Continental. When we come back on the other side, you can think about it a little bit more. He's looking for some recommendations. It's a V6 engine in his Lincoln Continental from 2012.
All right, we'll take it up after the break.
All right, we'll take a pit stop and then more. Watson, our lubrication specialist, more than 25 years of experience, and one of the largest dealers of Amsoil in the U.S. and in Canada. So this gentleman knows his business, and we've got an email question from a gentleman in Texas who says it's a 2012 Lincoln MKS, and it's equipped with a V6 power plant. He says it's a car he wants to hold on to for a long time, and he'd like some advice for the vehicle, Dan, as well as any other suggestions you might have.
Well, 2012, we may be where, I'm looking it up right now, where Ford has gone to their 5W20 synthetic engine oil, or 5W20. Almost all 5W20s are at least partial synthetics. And so I'm looking for just a second on my computer here, which I don't know why it's stuck in molasses. It's not moving very much. But here's the thing. Whether it's either 530 or 520, that we can determine if I don't have it quick enough for him. But Amsoil makes a couple different grades of synthetic. And what I recommend, if you really want the car to go and you want lifetime use, their signature series oil is the premium synthetic engine oil sold by Amsoil. There's no other oil that performs like this oil. It's good for 1 year, 25,000 miles. A lot of people don't drive it that long, but they don't care because it's like having the high-speed, high-temperature, performance-based synthetic radials on your car, okay? You want them there because when you want to turn correctly, you want it to turn correctly, okay? You want it to handle correctly. Well, using the premium grade synthetic engine oil means that you can just forget about any wear or any damage or any loss of viscosity. You've got an oil that can operate in what they call intermittent operating up to 450, 480 degrees. You're not going to get the engine that hot with the oil. If you do, you burn all the rubber things off of it, and you got to call the fire department. You have an oil that will pour out of the bottle at 60 below zero. So you're not going to get too cold to operate. And in between minus 60 and 450 degrees, it'll provide the best lubrication possible throughout that temperature range. And it's going to provide you with virtually no wear in that engine. And it is so clean that I've seen them come apart with 400,000 or 500,000 miles, and the inside of the engine is so clean. You can see the machining hatch marks on the cylinder walls. They haven't even been worn off in 450,000 miles. So,
wow.
If you want the best, you can get it. It's not the cheapest, but it is the best. However, I find these days that our signature series oil is priced right around the range of a lot of these other synthetics, and these other synthetics don't compare to that signature series oil. So 5W30 would be the oil that I believe that would fit best in that vehicle. It may call for a 520. We'd look at that depending upon whether it has variable valve timing in it, which we'd have to look up a couple things. But if he'll send me that email directly to me, or you forward it to me if he send it to you, and I'll give him a full specified answer on that because it's important to get the right stuff. Great question. This is the thing. And you heard the beginning of that question. I want to keep this car a long time.
Yeah.
And let's just tell the listeners out there, you want to keep your car a long time, then you're the perfect customer to talk to me because Amsoil Synthetics will keep your car a long time. I was just telling my wife the other day that maybe it keeps the car too long because they don't wear out, and now you have to determine that you're going to get rid of a perfectly well-working car just so you can get a different one, a new one. I'm not built that way. I just keep driving it,
Yeah.
Can't bring myself to say, well, although it's working perfectly, I want to get a new one. No, that doesn't fit my vocabulary.
Very good, Dan.
So,
our telephone number is 855-660-4261. Email bob@autoworldradio.com. This is an email that I actually got during the week, Steve from Michigan, and he wanted to know a little bit about the process. If he decided to order from you, is the best thing for him to do give you a call or go to the lubepage.com, and he wants to know about things like shipping and timing?
He should give me a call, or if he's at the Lube page, there's a place there to contact Dan. Either way, and I'll give him all the breakdown on that. But let me just tell it so other listeners hear it here. when you go through me for oil, it's going to be shipped from one of the regional warehouses, not from me direct. I'm going to make the orders and everything correct, and it's going to come out of one of Amsoil's warehouses. They have 12 of them. And you said he was in Michigan, so it'd probably come out of the Columbus, Ohio warehouse from Michigan. It can come out of Chicago. Sometimes it depends upon this little split in Michigan on that. But so the typical shipping time is you make the order. If the order's made before noon on Monday, for example, you're about 50% of the time going to get the oil on Tuesday, and about 90% of the time you're going to get the oil by at least Wednesday, and only a few will trail over into by Thursday, and that's because there's some really far out-reaching regions, like UPS Zone 5 away from one of the warehouses. But they get it out fast, it ships fast. Now, the shipping cost can vary depending upon how you're buying it. And that is they have deals online where you buy it and you pay no freight. It's free shipping. You have other situations which he would set up through me. If he's going to be a larger consumer, he might want to buy it in what Amsoil calls their preferred customer program, which is where he can get significant discounts, and I can explain to any person out there where that is cost effective for you and where it's not, because it's like being a member of Sam's Wholesale or Costco annual membership, and then you buy at a significant discount and save some money. So the question is, how much you're going to use, and is it cost effective to do that or not? And I can show people the breakdown on that, how that works.
Absolutely. We'll see if we can squeeze this one caller in with a question. You're on the air. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Frank. Bob. Hi.
Hey, Frank. How are you doing?
I was just wondering, should I stick with the recommended Ford lubricants for my 72 Lincoln Continental, or do you have something better?
Well, 1972, here's what I'm going to tell you, and we don't have much time, so I'll go through this as fast as I can.
Yeah.
There's no oil you can buy off the shelf right now that would be good for your 1972. The current SN-rated gasoline engine oils don't have sufficient zinc and phosphorus to give the type of protection that engine was made that it called for. So you have to make sure that you get an oil which has higher concentrations. Amsoil has what we call Z-Rod oil. We just use that because it refers to the muscle car era. And we have these oils designed with high zinc and phosphorus. And you need that for your valve train.
Yeah, so, the valve seats and all that, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, most of those cars from that vintage are made with what they call flat tappet valve system. And you've got to have the zinc to protect the camshaft. So if you want to get some more information on that, just go to the loop page and ask me the question, okay? It says contact Dan. Just say, hey, Dan, I'm the guy that called you. Can you send me more information on those high zinc and phosphorus oils that I need for my 72? And I'll send you the good information on that, because this is a problem as they keep making these modern oils and these new exhaust systems, and they're scared that any carryover zinc and phosphorus would destroy the catalytic converter. So they have lowered the amount that they're allowed to put in the oil. And so today you're trying to you need a 40-weight oil for that vintage car.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent. Shoot him an email, Frank. And it's Dan@theloopage.com. Dan, thank you so much, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll be talking to you real soon.
All right. Well, from Hawaii, they would just say, Mele Kalikimaka.
Very good.
All right. Merry Christmas. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Folks, this is Bob Long, host of Auto World Radio, with great news. We have a new sponsor, Dan Watson, who distributes Amsoil throughout the USA and Canada. Dan is one of Amsoil's largest distributors. He's a former U.S. Navy nuclear specialist and a certified lubrication specialist with 25-plus years of experience. You can listen to Dan every Sunday evening live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on GCNlive.com. Get all of your questions answered and ensure you get the best lubrication lubrication for your car, truck, boat, or really anything that moves. In 1972, Amsoil pioneered synthetic lubrication, and Amsoil continues to provide the best lubrication money can buy. Get the best advice for the best results. Contact Dan at thelubepage.com. That's thelubepage.com. Or call 800-370-2986. That's 800-370-2986.